the Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the WC podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Please help me welcome my friend, Betsy Fretwell, founder of C4ward Strategies, my fellow LVGA member, also a fellow member of the Vegas Chamber Board of Trustees, and the new chair of the Vegas Chamber Board of Trustees. Betsy, welcome.
Thank you, Jaime.
We're so glad to have you here. There's a lot to talk about. Let's start with the beginning. Tell our listeners who might not give the opportunity to, some of us are fortunate to have lunch with you, get to see you during work, but a lot of people knew you through your role at the city. But tell us where it all started. Where were you born? Where did you go to school? Where did you go to college, your first job? And eventually, how did you make it down here to Southern Nevada? Tell us that story.
That is a lot.
Yes.
Well, I'll just start from the beginning. I'm from South Carolina, upstate area, and I went to high school there in Greenville, South Carolina, had a great time there. And then I went on to school at the University of Georgia, kind of broke with the ranks with my family. Everybody had pretty much gone to South Carolina. And
Gamecocks.
I wanted to do something different, and I went to Georgia and liked it so much I stayed on to get my graduate degree there in public administration, and got out in around 91. With that degree, and kind of interesting. It was in the middle of a recession then, too. Getting a job was really hard. And so I had heard that Clark County, Nevada was looking for an intern. They had a national intern search, and I applied for it. And they called me a couple months later and said, hey, will you come out and come for an interview? And so I scraped together every penny I had, begged, borrowed, and stealed some points from one of my friends, my dad's friend, and was able to get out here and did the interview. And my phone was ringing when I walked back in the hotel room, and my friend now, Karen Duddleston, was calling me and saying, hey, will you come join our team? Wow. So within moments, I was literally back across the country and driving with all my worldly belongings to Vegas, and I've been here since.
That's amazing. Who was the county manager back then?
Pat Shalmy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's where it all started.
He was a great leader too. I mean, that was such a great team. I learned so much from all those individuals, and it was such a growth period for the county, well, the whole region. But oh my gosh, we were recession-proof at the time. Really,
yeah. Hotels popping up everywhere.
Oh yeah, I mean, there were conversations at the time about growth controls and limits on hotel room growth and all this kind of stuff. None of which happened, by the way. But things were happening so rapidly, it was really hard to keep up. But it was a great experience for me. I got such exposure to so many different issues, was able to build an incredible network of individuals, and I really greatly value that time in my professional career. Things were going so fast, and if you had talent and you worked hard and you were smart, it just kept following you. More work would come your way and more opportunity would come your way, and could learn a lot and grow a lot, and I was really fortunate for that.
We want to hear more about that because you just took me back in my mind. I went back to the late 80s, early 90s. I was on the Strip working for what was back then Mirage Resorts with Steve Wynn before it became MGM Mirage in the 2000. But I do remember opening Mirage in 89, Treasure Island in 93, Bellagio in 97, and that was just our company. MGM was opening, the Luxor, Excalibur. Oh, yeah. And so I can imagine that the county was challenged like never before. Tell us where do you parlay that experience? Because I know that you just didn't jump from Clark County to the city to become the city manager. So fill in those gaps for us. How did you continue to leverage and parlay that experience you gained at the county? What roles you filled until you became the city manager at the city of Las Vegas?
Well, I was lucky because I was able to become the lead lobbyist for Clark County in the late 90s. And, I got a significant exposure to a whole bunch of issues. I mean, not only the things that were impacting the county directly, but impacting our state. And I got to work with state leaders as well as county leaders and other municipal leaders. And those relationships have kind of followed me to this day. I mean, I think about that and think how fortunate I was because they were not easy sessions. the county was fighting with the city. There was all kinds of angst among the jurisdictions, and it was hard. It was a hard job, but I learned a lot. I got to know the issues very well, and then I was promoted to be the strategic issues manager at Clark County, and that plugged me into a lot of different topics, areas, special projects. Oh my gosh, I managed code enforcement. Golly, those people, I don't know how they put up with me. But anyway, and then I got an opportunity to go over to the City of Henderson to start their government affairs department.
Wow.
And so they had never had that before. Their assistant city manager had done that job before, and he and I had worked together really well at the legislature, and so they asked me to come join their team. I did that for a couple of years, got that up and running, kind of started a lot of their, what I would describe as their administrative services support work for the city manager's office at the time.
Who was that at that time, Betsy?
Phil Spate.
Wow.
And then Bonnie Rinaldi was there at the time, and Terry Zirkle and others. It was a good team. And then Virginia Valentine called me and said, I need a right hand. And Virginia had just become the city manager. She'd been there for maybe a year or two. And she called me and said, hey, will you come join our team? And I remember that with a lot of fondness because Virginia took me out to lunch with the two deputy managers that were part of that, and I just recall how much they were laughing. They laughed so much, like they were having so much fun.
Betsy doesn't know what's coming.
It was just so fun. I mean, I'm very serious, and the work that you do as a public servant is very serious, but sometimes you can't take yourself so seriously. And it was so cool because Virginia showed me that, and it was a really good learning lesson for me, but it was also sealed the deal, frankly, for me to make the move to come over to the city, and it was the best career move I could have made. It was a lateral. A lot of people are scared of making a lateral move, but it was kind of a lateral move for me financially and a little more job responsibility. But I was a little wondering if that was really going to work for me, and no regrets. So I was able to move into a deputy city manager job. I had responsibility for a whole variety of departments that I really had not had line exposure to growing up in public sector work. And then when the recession was kind of really beginning to become very evident, Doug Selby decided that he was going to retire and move his family back to New York, and so it was an opportunity for me to step up. And fortunately, Mayor Oscar Goodman at the time, and the rest of the council had the faith and confidence in me to lead the organization. So I stepped in there and was the city manager for over 9 years, which is the second longest serving city manager that we've ever had. The other guy was in the 50s, so that kind of puts it in perspective. So I was very fortunate to have that run, and we did a lot of cool things while I was there, so I'm very proud of that.
Had there been a woman before in that role, Betsy?
Virginia,
at the City of Las Vegas?
Yes.
Wow.
Virginia was the first female city manager at the City of Las Vegas, and I believe Jan Jones hired her, brought her in, and then Jan, was no longer mayor because she was trying to run for something else, and Mayor Goodman won that race. So.
We had Jen here about 2 months ago, and boy, does she have some stories.
Oh, I bet. She's hilarious.
Yeah,
she's fun to work with. I work with her on a lot of things right now. It's been really fun to do that.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And so Virginia went from the city manager to be the county manager.
Yep.
And then she brought you. You go and now fill the city manager role. And I know what a ride that must have been. I caught you at the end of it when I came to the public sector from hospitality. But again, I know that you in that role you and your team had to make some pretty tough decisions, but you also rode some periods of growth. If you look at that section of Las Vegas, the city of Las Vegas, what are you most proud of? What accomplishment are you most proud of those 9 years you spent at the city of Las Vegas? And maybe you don't have to pick one, but maybe a couple if you want.
We did a lot. I think rebuilding the organization post-recession. I mean, getting through the recession was rough. I mean, just waiting for this podcast, I was talking to one of my former employees in your IT department, and he was part of the layoff that we had to do. And, that was hard. it was a hard time for a lot of people, and it was hard to lead during that period of time. So rebuilding back using technology, we were doing things that everybody looked at us like, you're crazy. First off, we were doing cutback management long before anybody else was, because we knew how serious it was going to be. The city was a little bit different because we didn't have the space, the land availability that others did for significant growth. So we felt those impacts early and started adjusting early because of that. And at the same time, we were leveraging resources to keep private sector employees employed. I mean, I had engineers calling my office and saying, thank God for the city, because but for you, we would have no vertical construction in the city. None. Which means no structural engineers. And that'd be, I mean, we're still paying the price for that, in my opinion. All of those specialists moved to Phoenix, Denver, and everywhere else that didn't stop. Didn't have as long of a trail to get out of. You know, they had a position ahead of us, and they still do. And that's partly what we work on.
Yeah.
You know, is trying to figure out how do we rebuild this economy to be more diverse, to make sure that we're competitive with our other major metros in the Southwest and Mountain West, and it's a lot of work. But a lot of the roots are in the fact that it took us a long time to recover from that recession. Yeah. I mean, it took all 9 years. All 9 years of my city manager role to rebuild our budget differently and more smart, I hope, to be able to actually have the same revenue numbers that we had in 2008 by 2017. That's a long way
time
to go.
Yeah.
So, hey, I learned a lot. So I would say managing through the recession and having the city come out better and stronger at the end of the day, more innovative, more creative, more technologically savvy. I'm very proud of that. I'm also very proud of the built environment. I mean, we built a new city hall. We opened a mob museum. We opened the Smith Center for Performing Arts. We laid the foundation for what we see going up in Symphony Park now. All those things happened in the middle of a recession.
And Civic Plaza coming up now, too.
Civic Plaza coming up now. I didn't really have any. I don't have any fingerprints on that.
You laid the groundwork.
But some of the other stuff I do, and but I'm just so proud of what the city has been able to do. And I have a lot of pride in that, but I also have a lot of ownership. I mean, I'm a resident of the city, and I'm very proud of what the city has been able to do and what we do for the citizens here.
Well, I'm grateful personally, Betsy, because I know, again, when you were retiring from the city, we all thought you were going to leave a great hole at the LVGA, as you said, as we work in economic development. You sat on that board as a trustee of the Vegas Chamber, because the Vegas Chamber advocates for these businesses that we recruit here, and then we have to grow them. But I'm grateful that you stayed. You've, despite that role, you stayed in all those organizations. That's how I get to work with you most. But you've also made a transition into the private sector. So first you went to Switch, and now you have C4ward Strategies. Tell us a little bit about, after all those years of public service, how has it been to first work for a corporation and now your own business?
Well, the switch to the private sector was, I had always kind of planned on that. I had always planned on having my own business. Didn't know what I was going to do, but I wanted to have my own business. And when I left the city and went to Switch, I was super excited about, one, the ethos of the company, and two, the area of focus that they wanted me to jump in on, which was around the smart cities kind of stuff, emerging technology, research and development. And so it was a nice fit. Plus, they were big on sustainability, which was something that I had worked very hard on at the city. So both of those things seemed to really work for me, those two areas. And I was excited for the experience. And I worked there for over 5 years and ultimately ended up an executive vice president there. I started as an SVP. And so I was really pleased with that opportunity. I learned a tremendous amount. Watching that company go from being privately held to being publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, our team grew that company from a $3.5 billion IPO to an $11 billion private takeout in 5 years. That's insane kind of growth. But what an incredible ride. What a great experience. And frankly, they were very patient. They were patient in allowing me to learn more about the tech sector. As I joined there, while I had a big interest in that, and we had used a lot of technology while I was at the city to advance the future of the city, really immersing myself into the technology sector and really understanding that infrastructure and ecosystem, I wouldn't trade that for the world. It was a great experience. And, it positioned me to be ready to do what I'm doing now, which is, help other companies and other governments and other public sector agencies be able to leverage technology, really understand the regulatory environment, and problem solve around what they need to be doing so that they can advance their mission, serve their customers, grow their business, whatever their goals are. So it's really been kind of fun to make this transition. It is challenging, though. It's challenging being kind of a one-person shop, and because it's on you. You're the one doing the work, and if you're not doing the work, it's probably not getting done unless you can figure out how to leverage somebody else's talent along the way. So that's been kind of interesting.
After having how many employees in the city of Las Vegas?
Well, about 3,300. Yeah. Yeah, I went from, it's funny because I went from being CEO to so not. So I went from 3,300 to none at Switch, which then obviously grew when I became an EVP. But it was interesting going through that. But I think it was good because I learned to be able to do whatever I needed to do under that Switch umbrella as an individual without having necessarily a team of 3,300 people supporting those efforts. And so now that made me much more adept at being an independent contractor and consultant now. So
and Betsy,
it works.
When you're at home in the home office and the Wi-Fi breaks or some kind of IT problem, who's the IT department? Is it Chris? Who do you call the...
Chris is my CTO. Chris is my partner. We've been together for 28 years. And if something goes really chaotically, she's there to help me figure that out. But I've gotten pretty good at figuring a lot of that out myself, frankly. I just sort of figure it out. And I've worked with so many technically competent people over the last several years that there's some people that I can do the, phone a friend moment and get some help too. So that's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Betsy, I'm so happy that you're happy in your new role because that means you're going to stay around at the LVGA, at the Vegas Chamber. And, of course, those are two of Workforce Connections' biggest partners. You know that. Tell us a little bit about I know working with you, you are a critical thinker, a problem solver. That's kind of the core of who you are. Is it give me information, give me data, and let's solve this problem. And so how do you, and with that, I know also that you probably wake up early. I don't know how late you go to bed, but how do you create boundaries for a good work-life balance? Because I can see you working a lot. Has that changed since this shift to being your own boss? Or are you still struggling to set those boundaries to make sure you have a good balance?
I think you always struggle with that. And sometimes we, in our own mind, explain away why you're allowing that to happen. So when you're starting your business, it's hard to know what some of those boundaries are. And because you don't know necessarily what you totally like, what you totally dislike doing. And I'm an opportunist. I always have been. I see opportunity in almost everything. It used to drive my team crazy. I'm like, oh, there's an opportunity there. And they're like, please, can we just stay focused on this one thing right now? And yes, you do have to stay focused on those things. But that doesn't mean you should be blind to the opportunity. So over the last year, I've been trying to figure out what, my capacity. How do I add capacity when I need it and to what end and at what price so that I'm more balanced in it. I think 24 is going to be an easier year for me in that way. One, I'm the incoming chair. Well, I guess I'm really the official chair right now.
You've been sworn in
of the Vegas Chamber. That is a demanding role. There's a lot of activities and responsibilities associated with leading that organization for a year. So I know I've got to, make sure I have adequate time and attention to that very important role. And I plan on doing that. So I don't see things necessarily getting too out of whack, but I'll have to scale some other things back to really address that and do that as well as I would like to.
That's good. And Paul Anderson, I know you're watching. Betsy told me you're very happy about her already being sworn in as the official chair of the Vegas Chamber. So, Betsy, we also know that you and Chris love dogs. Yeah. And, we know by having the fortune of dined with you, I know you like good wine, good food. Yeah. But tell us a little bit more. What do we not know about Betsy? What are the hobbies, activities that really bring fulfillment in your life?
Well, I love riding my bike. I have a gravel grinder. It's electric. I just made the adjustment. I had to get over it in my head that I wasn't being lazy if I went to an electric bike. And while you can still get a really good workout in, you can go a lot further and you can go a lot faster, and I love that about it. I love to ride my bike. I hike. I do love to hike wherever we go. So on most of our vacation trips are centered around some sort of activity, whether it be biking or hiking.
Even the one in Italy? Because that one was, Jim said he was the driver for that one.
Yeah, that was more, I will say this, that was a little more tourist oriented, but I did a walk or a hike every day.
Wow.
Yeah, everybody else was taking a nap. I was out walking,
Good for you.
which was kind of scary because those roads are like really narrow. Yeah. And, all of a sudden a car's screaming around the corner and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But it was super fun. But yes, I do like those kinds of trips. And I like active trips where you're using your body and exploring things you might not have ordinarily thought about exploring and seeing it from that vantage point. So I like that. I like to cook. I love listening to music. I read books. So I have some of those kind of more quiet things that I like to do that are really good for me. They're very cathartic, particularly cooking. I can get in my head and just chop away and focus on that. I play golf. Love playing golf. Don't get to do it as much as I should. In my failed retirement for the third time, you would think that my handicap would be lower, but it's not yet. So that's on my list for 24 to get back out on the links a little bit more often.
Very cool. Perry Ursum did tell me about that. Now that I remember that he's joined you on a couple of bike rides.
See, Perry, he can get going, man. I tell you what, I love Perry. Let me tell you what Perry called me. Perry's like, Betsy, here's what we call you at LVGEA. I said, what's that? He said, straight no chaser. And I said, I love that. I'm going to have that on my headstone. And he's like, you should, because it's perfect for you. So he's a great guy. It works really hard for this community.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And fun to bike with.
Although
he just blows past me. He's like, whoo.
Even now with the electric bike?
Well,
you might get him now.
I don't know. There's a limit on the speed on those electric bikes, and he can really zip. He's very fit.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Again, I saw your year as a chair at the LVGA. Great accomplishments. Your year as the chair of the Vegas Chamber just started. What do you see in 2024? What are your goals for that organization in this role as the chair?
Well, I think we have an incredible opportunity with the Brightline announcement for the train and getting $3 billion. I think this is a great time for the Chamber to work with the LVGEA, to work with the LVCVA and NDOT and RTC to really advance plans to activate that I-15 corridor. We've been talking about it for 30 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, Mayor Goodman's probably doing a little rah-rah right now because there needs to be more effort. And now we've got a huge catalyst to really activate that corridor, see if we can get some of those lane miles expanded, maybe take advantage of some of the electric vehicle funding that's available. There's like over $350 billion with the B dollars available for advanced transportation solutions. Yep. We should be taking advantage of that and do it now. And in partnership with California. I know sometimes their priorities might not line up with ours, but hopefully on this one, maybe the time's right that we can actually get some headway there and make it easier for our tourists to get here, not just on the train, but by car, and be able to make sure that our supply lines stay plumbed up. I mean, I think that the I-15 corridor is the 7th busiest trucking route and supply line route in the country, 7th. And it's, on the end of a weekend, it's jam-packed. You can't get anywhere very fast. That's not okay. So we need to really elevate that. And I kind of tie that into kind of what's new and next for our valley. For the last 10 years, we've invested billions of public and private dollars into venues, into sporting venues, and we've solidified our place at the top of the sports and entertainment capital of the world. Let's figure out what's the next piece of that puzzle. And I believe there are probably many things that are already on everybody's list that we all violently agree about. Now let's get focused on those things, and let's see if we can figure out how do we put those into action. I-15 is a great example, so that we can really take full advantage of these investments that we've made. So those are some of the things that I'd like to see us focus in on. I also think it's really important for us to start to build out some of our political leadership and build a pipeline on that. And the Chamber's committed to building out a candidate forum where individuals who are planning to seek public office have a way to go through a professional training program that will help them when they get into those positions, be ready to govern. This is a big responsibility, and frankly, the public doesn't cut you much slack on, I'm on a learning curve. That's not a good answer. So we'd like for them to be ready when they take office, and so that's one of the other areas we'll focus in on.
That's really good, Betsy. That's a really robust list, and of course, that you can count on us at Workforce Connections to support all those efforts. Over the last few years, we have developed such a significant partnership with the Vegas Chamber. Mm-hmm. My peers and Mary Beth's peers across the nation look at us because the Vegas Chamber was the first chamber of commerce in the nation to host an American Job Center, publicly funded. Mary Beth's on our board. For the first time, a non-business like Workforce Connections is on the Vegas Chamber board. And so we are really built, again, a solid foundation, but we're going to continue to put all of our efforts to support the type of things that are on your list, your vision for 2024.
Well, thanks, because let me tell you, workforce development's critical. And just a talent pipeline that we can all rely upon. I mean, we want our business community to be robust, right, and growing and diverse. And making sure that we have that talent pipeline completely plumbed up is critically important for relocations, but also for expansion and growth here.
Yep. Betsy, last question.
All right.
There might be some young people there, that are finishing their high school or in college and thinking, I want a career like Betsy Fretwell. I want to make an impact in the cities, the counties that we live in, positively affect public safety, vertical construction, economic development. And then when that's all said and done, I want to have a vibrant career in the private sector and work for a company like Switch and build a company that's, worth $11 billion. And one day even have my own company like C4ward Strategies. What kind of advice can you give a young person? What should they focus on to one day give themselves the opportunity to be the kind of community leader you are today?
I mentioned that I feel very fortunate that I had a lot of exposure and professional growth opportunities early in my career that gave me exposure to broad subject areas. Governments are kind of interesting because they do everything from A to Z. And I mean animal control to zoning and every letter in the alphabet between, and maybe a few extras. And so I felt very fortunate to have had that breadth of exposure. I would say, really, one, if you really want to be a community leader, you need to start talking about it. Don't be bashful. A lot of people are bashful, and they're worried that if they say they want to be a city or a county manager, they want to be a CEO, that, maybe they feel they may not succeed at that, and then that would be disappointing. Or maybe they feel like somebody's going to, try and stop them from achieving that goal because they've said it. I always say, just say it loud and proud. I mean, I literally had an HR director laugh at me when I told him that my goal was to be a city or a county manager within 10 years.
Wow.
Laughed. The HR director laughed in my face. That might have been the best thing that could have ever happened to me because I was going to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And I did. So I just believe that if you set your mind to it and you get as much exposure to as many things as you possibly can in your area of interest, you will achieve that goal. There will be an opportunity. I just think that's a really important thing. And then I think always look at those opportunities, just like I said earlier. You may not always take advantage of them, but recognizing them is half the battle. So if you can recognize them, then you're going to be able to make career choices along the way that influence that path to where you ultimately want to be, whatever that goal is.
Such good advice. Thank you, Betsy. And I feel fortunate again to work with you, see you in action and all the projects we work together. Fortunate to call you a friend. I still look forward. Since COVID, we've been rescheduling this dinner. I was going to bring Peruvian food. You were going to open the good wine cabinet. Peru chicken.
Come on.
You were going to open the good cabinet of wine, not the regular one, the good one. All the prisoner is, all the good stuff. So I look forward to that. But thank you for being here today. And best of luck for 2024 and all of the roles, the Vegas Chamber Chair, C4ward Strategies, and can't wait to keep working with you together, Betsy.
Thanks, Jaime. It's been a real pleasure. It's fun just chatting about all this.
It sure was. Thank you, Betsy. All right, that's another episode of the WC Podcast. We hope to see you at a future one. Until then, stay safe. Betsy, thank you for staying over to do our bonus segment called Against the Wall. Are you ready?
I'm ready, I think.
First category, call your favorites. I'm going to give you a category. You're going to give me your favorite one in that category. Let's start with your favorite food.
Well, I thought you were going to give me choices.
No, you got to tell me which is your favorite food. I
love a good steak.
Okay. How about your favorite movie?
Oh, that one's a tough one. I know this is totally depressing, but I loved Lincoln.
Yes, that was a great movie. Your favorite subject in school?
Oh, science for sure.
Your favorite holiday?
Easter.
Your favorite sports team?
Really?
Yes.
Georgia Bulldogs.
Yes.
Come on, Jaime.
I knew that, college, but now your favorite Las Vegas sports team?
Oh, the Rebels.
Wow. And last night they had a great game.
Yes.
Yes, great game.
Yes, they did. Way to go, Rebs.
Second segment is called Tough Choices. Now I am going to give you two choices. You're going to have to pick one. It's tough.
I may wait.
Yes.
I have to do an amendment.
Okay.
Because I absolutely love the Las Vegas Aces.
Twice world champions, yes.
Have to say it out loud.
Yeah.
Those women are incredible.
And you sit courtside.
Sit courtside.
Yeah.
Yep.
But also, Kerry Booble's going to be hearing this. He knows you're a big VGK fan as well.
All of these guys know that I love all the sports here. I go to all of these games. It's a miracle I get any work done.
That's right. Mark knows you love the Raiders. That's right. You're a fan of all of them. Here we go. Choose between Clemson Tigers or South Carolina Gamecocks.
Can I pick Georgia Bulldogs?
There
okay,
you
South
smart.
Carolina.
Sorry.
South Carolina, if I have to pick between those two.
Here's two experiences. Sitting courtside at the Aces game at Mandalay Bay or at the Raiders game at Allegiant.
Oh, courtside.
Oh, yes.
Aces all the way, baby.
Now, Jim told me, I might be surprised at this one because I think I got it wrong, but red or white wine?
Oh, I lately been more on the white side.
He said,
Yep.
Wow, okay.
Yep.
Cooking at home or eating at a restaurant?
Oh, at home always.
Vacation or staycation?
I like vacations.
How do you get there? Would you rather drive to your vacation or fly there?
Oh, if I'm going to go on vacation, I want to go. Get in the airplane. Let's go.
All right. And when you get there, would you rather stay in a hotel or an Airbnb?
House.
All right. Owe money or owe a favor?
Oh, I don't like owing anybody
Either
anything. So probably a favor.
All right.
Definitely not money.
Here's a tough one. Justice or grace?
Grace.
Actions or words?
Actions.
I love it. Final segment, Betsy. Finish this sentence for me. I'm going to give you about 90% of it. If Betsy could live anywhere, it would be...
Here.
The best part of living in Southern Nevada is...
Can you imagine a better place than this?
Love it. Betsy's favorite thing about her new job at C4ward Strategies is...
I'm my own boss.
If Betsy could travel back in time, she would travel to...
Ooh. I would say... Oh, maybe the flapper age in the 20s.
Wow. Very nice. 3 words. I know what I would say, but 3 words to describe Betsy are...
Results driven, passionate, and courageous.
I couldn't agree more. Betsy, doing the WC podcast here with us today was
super
awesome. Thank you.